Hello! So today I'm going to be reviewing Adrian Tchaikovsky's Children of Ruin. Children of Ruin is the sequel to the Arthur C. Clarke winning Children of Time. As is the way with most sequels, it's pretty much impossible for me to talk about this book without ruining some of the aspects of Children of Time. So I strongly suggest you go away and you read Children of Time before watching the rest of this video, mainly because Children of Time is one of my favourite sci-fis ever written. That's quite a claim because I have read a lot of sci-fi, but I just absolutely fell in love with this novel when I read it in 2022. There will be a link in the description box to my review of this novel, but yeah, it is great. And you're probably thinking, Andy, why did you wait so long to read Children of Ruin if you loved Children of Time so much? And the main reason is fear. Absolute fear that the sequel was not going to live up to the magic of the first book. I was just a bit scared. I was a bit like, oh no, this is one of my most favourite recent sci-fi reads in many years. And I was a little bit scared. And unfortunately, yeah, my fears were accurate. This book pales in comparison to the first one. Now, this book still does have its merits. There are lots of things to enjoy within this sequel, but I just love that first book so much. I think it was always going to be tricky for the sequel to kind of match up to the heights that the first book laid down. And yeah, this book doesn't really even get close though. Not even slightly close to the heights of that first book. But anyway, let's talk about it. Children of Ruin pretty much follows directly on from the events of the first book. Humanity, having terraformed another distant planet, discovers a new set of challenges as intelligent life evolves there. In the first novel, it was spiders. In the sequel, it's octopi. This novel dives deep into the complexities of communication between species, and building upon the consequences of human interference. The novel follows a similar structure to the first novel, in which we have the past and the present. And in the past, we are following the humans as they are terraforming planets, and this new octopi alien life is evolving, and we're following that evolution and the various challenges that the scientists are set with. And then in the present, we are following the spider community with the human community as they combine forces to set out and discover new planets. Mainly, they have discovered a signal being sent from the octopi planet. As the novel unfolds across various different planets, we are getting a look into the intricate relationships between humans and aliens, and mainly communication. So what did I like and what didn't I like? What I liked. Just like the first novel, Tchaikovsky handles the evolution elements extremely well. The way these alien civilizations, the way these creatures, these animals evolve, and the science behind it, he just handles it pitch perfectly. I love that it is absolutely jam-packed with the science of the science fiction, and that everything feels warranted, everything feels authentic. I like how Tchaikovsky is handling the multi-species narrative. It dives into the different perspectives of different alien species and their evolution, and the way he handles it, yeah, he does a solid job. As far as the basics of sequels go, I think Tchaikovsky does a decent job. I do like that it expands the world, it expands the scope of what's happening, and it adds in a little kind of like an overarching sort of like nemesis type thing that's building. Yeah, I think it does a decent job of doing what sequels should do. I really enjoyed how Tchaikovsky examines the ideas of communication and how humans and AI communicate with different species, working out ways to communicate, figuring out the riddles within that communication. I think that, for me, is the strongest element of this book. I think he handles it really well. And finally, I liked the novel's philosophical themes. The nature of intelligence, morality, and this kind of interconnectedness of life, and the philosophical ideas that those things are exploring are layered throughout this novel really well. What didn't I like? So if I'm being 100% honest, with the first novel, I much preferred the spider storyline over the human storyline. The human storyline needs to be in there, and it was decent, it was good, character development was absolute pants, but it functioned and it served, and especially in the latter half of the first novel, that sort of build between the humans meeting the spiders was really tense, so therefore it was absolutely needed. But I'm not going to lie, I much preferred, much preferred following the spider storyline. I mean, the intricacies of the spider's evolution, it gets like Game of Thrones at points. I was just blown away by that story, that side of the book. And now we have a book which is basically 90% made up of the sort of human story. Now, we don't get that cutaway to the sort of the magic and the creativity of the spider story. So now this is a book made up of what I considered to be the weakest aspect of the first book. So naturally, yeah, I was really disappointed. Now, here's the thing. If Tchaikovsky had just done the same thing again, if Tchaikovsky had split this novel in two timelines, and in one of them we are just purely following the evolution of the octopi without the sort of human interference in that moment, then everyone would say he's just doing the exact same thing again. And I would kind of agree with everyone saying that. However, I would have still enjoyed that book more than I enjoyed this book. So my main gripe with this book would actually be what one of my negatives was for the first book, that the character development is just very, very weak. This book is very matter of fact. It's factual. It is throwing all the science at you. The way that the scientists talk, they're scientists, or they're doctors, and the way they talk is just like the communication of what's happening. And there is like sprinklings of a little bit of character development in there, a few little moments, but really, when you've now got a book that is made up mainly, there is a small evolution of the octopi moment, and strangely, lo and behold, one of my favourite parts of the book. But yeah, it's just the character development's not there, and you can forgive that in the first novel because of how the creativity and the magic of the evolution of the spider story. We just don't have that in this novel. So now I'm just left with a book that's giving me so much science, so many facts, without any of this sort of like really creative, really fascinating, absolutely amazing side evolution story. So yeah, and again, I know what Tchaikovsky was going for. He was going, okay, let's do the evolution of the octopi, but have the human interference within that, and see sort of how the humans developed and how all of that happened alongside the octopi developing. I get that, but it just didn't work because I don't think Tchaikovsky is particularly good with character development, really. I don't know. And I do get it. If Tchaikovsky was to make the character development as rich as possible and really expand it whilst keeping all of the wonderful science of the science fiction that he is so good at, this novel would probably be over 1,000 pages long. But again, I would much rather read something like that than this. Now, I do understand all of that was incredibly rambly, so I hope that makes sense. But overall, I just felt like the first novel had a little bit of magic built into it. I never thought in a million years I would get so hooked and wrapped up on a story of the evolution of spiders. I could even tell someone, read this book. It's got like these spiders, alien spiders, and it's sort of like about their evolution. And most people were like, why would I want to read that? That sounds naff. And yet Adrian Tchaikovsky has just injected this magic into that book, and it was so good. And that is lacking in this book. I found this book incredibly bland, and I'm not going to lie, I was very, very bored for vast stretches of it. Now, maybe I just wasn't in the right mood, but I did feel like it had been long enough. I should give the sequel a go. And I was really, really disappointed. To give this novel one final moment of defence, I will say that there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of creativity within the science that's being explored in this novel, within the communication. It is jam-packed with creativity. So when I use the word it lacks the creativity of the first, I don't want you to think that this doesn't have some really fantastic imaginative ideas around aliens, around species, around communication, around interspecies communication. Tchaikovsky is doing a fantastic job of all those things. I think it's just the writing style and the lack of character development and how sort of like one note everything feels that left me feeling a bit bland and bored, because I didn't have that other sort of like the magic of something so different to sort of balance it out. So yeah, I'm going to go for like a 2.5 stars out of 5. This was all right to good. There are some very good moments throughout this novel, but overall, yeah, I was just, and it's really unfortunate, I can't believe I'm saying it compared to the last book, it's just a bit boring, or at least, I mean, I found it a little bit boring. Very creative in its exploration of science, communication and evolution. Unfortunately, very uncreative when it comes to character development, story and plot. I'm afraid to say that on the strength of this book alone, I am not going to be continuing this series, which is a massive shame. I just feel like if the third book goes in any direction like this one, it's just not a book I'm interested in reading. It's just too matter of fact, just too much science. No matter how creatively put together the science of the science fiction is, I need a little more exploration in the fiction side of structure, plot, and character. I want to really, really care about the characters. I want to really be involved in it. I don't want to be completely distanced like this novel put me. So if you have read the third book, and you think it's a step up from this book, then please comment below, and if enough people comment, then I'll probably finish it. I'll probably read the third book. But if everyone says that the third book is pretty much like this one, it continues in that trajectory, then yeah, it's not something I'm interested in reading. And I am heartbroken to say that, because Children of Time is an absolute winner. And I would wholly recommend reading Children of Time on its own. Don't worry about continuing it. Just do Children of Time. It is its own story. Read that novel. God, it's good. So there you go, that's my thoughts on Children of Ruin. I want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you are well and you are enjoying whatever you might be reading, and I'll see you all on the next one.